Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, whenever you're listening to this, welcome. I wanted to share a simple breathing tip that I think might support you in a couple different ways. One, to help you become more grounded and come back into a parasympathetic nervous system. And two, to help you rebuild awareness on one, your breath and how your breath changes based on moment to moment, what's happening and helping you identify what you need in that moment and supporting yourself with getting that need in that moment. Realizing that you're in the process of reparenting yourself, and I'll explain that in a second. So I think it's so important on a regular basis for us to ground ourselves. So for example, when you wake up in the morning, our mind just starts to get activated. We go into a sympathetic nervous system, which is a fight, flight, stress response. And so often we don't realize that we're in that response because it's been normalized. And I love something Gabor Mate said over the last week of his Wisdom of Trauma talks. He's like, the norm does not mean healthy and good for us. Just because something is normalized doesn't mean it's good for us. So realizing that stress has been normalized to the point where most of us don't realize we're in a stress response. You start to realize it when you start to take yourself out of that stress response, coming back into what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, the more rest, I cannot speak, rest and digest state. So first, you just have to be aware of those differences. So for example, if you're like most people, you often you open your eyes in the morning and you might grab your phone. That's a very common thing. I'm not going to judge if you do it. I definitely do it at times. And so we pick up our phone and our minds start to become activated. We want to check social media, check our emails, check the weather. That's a big thing for me every single day. I check the weather, not because I'm concerned about the weather, let me be honest, but my dad loves to know what the weather is here in Brazil. So it's like one of the first messages I send in the morning is I check the weather and tell him what the temperature and the forecast is. It's kind of our little tradition. But that being said, your mind starts to get activated. And what happens when your mind gets activated is blood rushes to the brain, to the limbs, to respond to the outer stresses of the world. We also need to come back into our parasympathetic nervous system. I'm not going to say we don't go into our sympathetic. Of course we do. That's how we function in life. And to stay healthy and come in, we need to come back into our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest state, and bringing the blood and our oxygen, our energy and focus back to the internal organs, back within ourselves, right? This actually will help you create a better immune system, a stronger immune system, because your immune system is on the inside. Right? And if blood is rushing to the limbs constantly, your immune system doesn't have enough blood and oxygen and so forth to function fully. Right? And so then, as you know, when you get super, super stressed at work, you're working on a huge project. And then after that project is over, or the day you go on vacation, you get sick because your body is just like, oh my God, now we can rest. And now I'm going to really make you rest because I need to become healthy to get through the next round of whatever stress we bring into our lives. So a simple practice of just breathing a couple times a day, set a timer a few times a day and go, can I connect with my breath? And can I recognize what I need in this moment? There's a couple benefits around this. Not only will you become aware of yourself and what you need, but you're going to start training yourself to become tuned into your body. It speaks to you, right? It's constantly the language of the body are emotions, and emotions are energy emotion. It's the physiological sensations we are feeling in our body. It's kind of like when your body signals hunger, you feel it. And for each of us, it might show up a little bit differently. For some of us, it shows up in the form of a headache. Why does it show up in the form of a headache? Oftentimes because we're so disconnected with the feelings of our gut that we don't even realize our gut has been telling us, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And then eventually it comes to a headache, right? So the more you tune into the sensations, to the language of the body, the more you can do things. Here's the other thing I'm going to talk about, especially around the reparenting piece. Many of us, as children, especially as babies, didn't have our needs met. Not because our parents didn't want to meet our needs, oftentimes they're not, They just didn't know what we know now about childhood development and the needs of a baby. So they were doing their best. And we were doing our best to communicate our needs, and we didn't have words to communicate them at that young age, right? All we had were feelings and emotions and sounds, right? And then they were trying to interpret those. And if they're disconnected with their own feelings, emotions, and sounds, they might have read us wrong, or they might have been told, oh, just let the baby cry it out. And so oftentimes our needs were not met, right? And we didn't have the words to express our needs. And so now we're going to give yourself the opportunity to reparent yourself. No blame again to your parents, but you have the opportunity as an adult to reparent yourself and heal those parts of you and finally get your needs met. Tune in and listen to your needs because your needs are important. That's the other thing. When our parents, again, doing the best they could, didn't recognize our needs, we stopped recognizing our needs. So I get this often with clients. I'll say, what is it you need right now? And they're like, I don't know. I actually remember this the first time my therapist said this to me. She goes, what do you need in this moment? I go, I don't know. She goes, that's where we need to start. So recognize that you might not know what you need because you were at some point ignored your needs. And you probably created an unconscious belief or pattern that my needs didn't matter, or I don't know what my needs are anymore. I'm focused on the outer world, and partly because of survival versus the inner world. So this simple breathing practice will help you come back into your inner world, will help you tune into your breath, will help you come more into a parasympathetic nervous system, will help you hear what your needs are, and I'm going to support you with helping you get that need met so that you can start reparenting. So imagine you were the baby and you expressed your need, and then the caregiver gave that need. How would you feel if that need was met? How would you feel? I'm going to take you on that journey. You're going to explore that. So what I want you to do is get into a comfortable seated position. I'm going to do that myself. You can sit or stand if you want. I recommend sitting or standing versus lying down. The reason why, not to say you can't meditate lying down, but oftentimes when we lie down, our body has been trained to fall asleep. That's not bad to fall asleep, but if you want to get the most out of it, if you're bedridden for health reasons, prop a pillow up a little bit so your body's not in that vertical state and falling asleep. But do your best to try to be in a different position and be as coherent as possible. So go ahead and close your eyes. And just first come into your body. Come into your body however that means for you. Do your best to be the observer and not the judge. And recognize that during this process, there might be moments where you feel uncomfortable. But remember, you're safe. There's not a bear coming at you. So it's okay to be uncomfortable at time in life, but it's not okay not to be unsafe. So in this moment, you might be uncomfortable versus unsafe. Now come into connecting with your lungs and your chest. I want you to notice how those lungs, how your chest moves as you inhale, so how it expands, and how it contracts when you exhale. You're just tuning into the movements of your breath. Maybe seeing your breath like waves in the ocean. Not necessarily waves that come crashing down, but just kind of those rolling waves. Maybe notice the pace of the rhythm of your breath. And again, there's not a right or wrong pace or rhythm that you should be breathing at in this moment. Just be the observer, not the judge. You're like the scientist, you're investigating, you're getting curious. Maybe allowing your diaphragm, which is that muscle underneath the rib cage that pushes down into the stomach, to kind of blow the stomach up like a balloon as you breathe in. And allowing that diaphragm to contract back up and deflate that stomach, deflating that balloon as you breathe out. If your mind gets active, just see those active thoughts as a cloud going by in the sky. No need to attach yourself to them. Just come back to the breath. And then place one hand on your heart or both hands on your heart, right in the center of the chest. Really feeling the breath as it hits your hand. And just recognize what you need in this moment. Just kind of tuning in, ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? And maybe you have clarity, maybe you don't, that's okay. Just do your best to just kind of tune in, what do I need in this moment? Maybe you need to be seen, you need to be hugged, you need to be respected. You need to feel safe, secure, understood. Maybe you need a hug. There's not a right or wrong need. Now imagine you getting that need met. See yourself getting that need met. It doesn't matter by who. Just imagine yourself getting that need met. And notice how you feel as you get that need met. And again, there's not a right or wrong way to feel. Just be the observer, not the judge. Notice any physiological sensations showing up in the body as you get that need met. Notice if your breath changes as you get that need met. And then recognize the temperature of the air in the space that you're in. Recognize any sounds in the space that you're in. Maybe wiggle your toes and your fingertips. And when you're ready, flutter your eyes open. And just maybe take a moment and reflect on that experience. Now, for some of you, you might have felt nothing, and that doesn't mean it's not working. And for others of you, you might have felt something. Now, if you use this practice multiple times, you're going to have some of those similar experiences. So sometimes you might not feel anything, and that doesn't mean you're not doing it right. And other times you might feel a lot of things. So just honor the experience that you have. But try this on a regular basis. Like again, I recommend setting a timer a couple times a day, a reminder on your phone, I like to set an alarm. And when it goes off, it's like, okay, can I just come back, connect with my breath, notice my breath, check in with what I need? Can I give myself or imagine that need getting met? And just notice again how I feel. And again, if this is a practice that you haven't done before, if you haven't done meditation, things like that, don't be surprised if your mind is like, wah, 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 wah. It's got to be trained to be quiet. And so just like you flex a muscle, the first time you go out and you get a dumbbell and you start flexing those muscles, you're like, ugh, this is hard. But after a while, you keep doing it, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. The same thing with this practice. So try it on. In the comments below, let me know how it works for you. And just so happy to share this beautiful gift and beautiful journey with each of you. Ciao, ciao. Beijos.